last thing is, if we come back to conducting data with 1,000 participants, believe me, you don't want to do it even one day, because you switch off your brain and you will fall in some patterns and you will collect some data which are not the ones which you like. So try to stay awake and concentrate and don't follow the natural routines. Yeah, actually that's so far from my side. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you very much. It was really, really interesting presentation. Thanks for that. I think for most of you, should be something new. Just to give you a short idea of how we used it last semester, some students in the third semester master's classes, they had the idea in e-tourism research to find out on a recommender website like TripAdvisor how important is text and how important are the symbols like the stars, and how does this correlate to when people look at positive commands, when do they read negative commands. Is there a correlation between the text and positive and negative commands and so on? They combined it with interviews and really has some interesting results. But I can tell you the learning curve is really important, and it was the same with us. So it's really nothing you start on and you're happy that the machine collects your results and that's it. So it really needs some time to get into the system, to understand it, and also to get an idea of which kind of questions can be solved with this methodology. It's a cool system, and this is probably the problem. Students, if they know that there is the possibility of using a technology like this, it's not that they find the methodology fitting towards the problem. Sometimes it's, well, the methodology is so cool, so let's find the problem to analyze. And this is not the way I really like research to be done, but sometimes it happens. So thank you very much for your presentation. Are there any questions?
Well, just what you said, it's very interesting. Arnd, you can answer this as well. What you said about the review and rating platforms. Have you ever tried this out? Which words, for instance, attract the users most in terms of the positive and the negative comments? So identifying which words actually attract the attention of the customers or the readers, the users. If you have a negative comment, is it if you write words like bad or dreadful, in English, I could say in German, schreckliches Service or something like that, on the same, or in the other direction with the positive commands, is it that words like extremely good and very friendly, so this intensifiers, have you ever done such analysis?
We ourselves haven't done such research, and I don't know if one of our customers is doing it, but we have a couple of thousand systems in the market, so might be one. But I personally didn't hear anything about it.
We didn't either, but what we did is it was interesting to look on, do people concentrate, for example, on negative comments first, and then, or not on the commands, but do they concentrate on the symbols? So let's say a 1-star symbol, do they concentrate on these first or on the 5-star symbol? Do they concentrate first on the symbol and then read the text, and then probably switch to the next text and so on? So this pattern, this curve from a timeline perspective, this was analyzed what we did. This was really, really interesting. It was helpful having this kind of system.
And where did they look at? First the symbol or?
Yeah, the first checked out the symbols, as we assumed. The first checked out the symbols in order to get a feeling of what kind of information might be behind the text. People are interested. Well, me personally, I would be the one reading a negative comment first instead of the positive one, because I would like to know is this really a problem? Is what these person perceives as a problem, would it be a problem for me?
Yeah.
In order to travel there. So I would concentrate on the negative comments first. But I wouldn't read the whole text. So what I would do is I would concentrate on the lower stars. So if there is a 1 or 2-star comment, I would check the stars and then start reading the comments. But we saw that there are two different kind of people, so not everyone makes that. Other people start just the other way around, so this probably is the opposite.
That's the cognitive dissonance and other models.
So then other theories come into this topic, and it's really nice research.
Yeah.
So if there are no further questions, yes, yeah, please.
You mentioned that you're basically measuring attention, without perfectly, of course, knowing why someone's watching something. And you also mentioned how expensive the devices are, which reminded me on a professor we had about 5 years ago in marketing, who also told me that one of the problems with devices like that is that there is, from a psychological point of view, there's a difference between attention and just looking at something. And I don't know if you know the Spotlight View, I think it was called, which was a tool that I think he also invented it, and it just seemed to be so extremely easy that I kept in mind. It's basically that you have I think it was the focus map, where you see some spots and others you don't, and it's basically the other way around. So you start with a focus map and you discover parts of it. Of course, only works with a static image, and you discover parts of the image by sharpening it, and you control the points you sharpen. For example, with a mouse, and then you have, from a psychological point of view, the connection between real attention and I think it even works remotely, so you don't need any kind of device. You could, I think, even do an online survey, because you just need people to have this program, which might also work as a client-side script, and then you just need people who have an internet browser.
Two points to this. First of all, why does eye tracking works? We humans have only a very small angle in our field of view, which is called the fovea. It's about 1 to 1.5 degrees from every one of us, where we are able to see sharp images. So if you go aside more into the peripheral from this foveal vision, then our images get unsharp and even only black and white vision. Why do I think that I see still colors in my peripheral? It's because I put my foveal vision to there, and I save kind of the image from this part of the room as well. So we are moving our eyes to points where we want to watch sharp images, where we want to conduct more information from. So these kind of movements we can track with eye tracking. The point is, when it comes to a task which you have to fulfill, you use this foveal part of your vision. But how do you come to the idea to look to it? Exactly this point is because in your peripheral you have seen something which attracts it, where you think that this point has some more information you need. And that's the biggest problem for such technologies. If you fade out everything and you just have to see if there is some information behind it, it's kind of explorational vision. So I'm guessing that the information is up there, but I have no idea. So it's kind of, I'm following a pattern which I've learned before, which I'm trusting. And yes, attention doesn't mean necessarily also that my eye is there. For example, I'm looking now to your eye, but in principle my attention is on the Coke bottle next to it. I see it very unsharp, but I still see it, and I would see it if it would fall down. My eye tracking device would now show that I'm very attracted from your nose all the time. But I'm not seeing it all the time. So yes, that's the problem in eye tracking. You have to make sure in your task and in the way how you send the people into this task is that they are working with their peripheral, with their foveal vision. That's the biggest problem which I have, for example, with the rugby players in Wales. So, I mean, these guys, and we train scenarios where they have to pass through the ball. And for them, the peripheral vision is very, very much of importance, because they have to see if the player is there. What we start to train now is that they have to identify the players as well. Because what you see very often in the game, and they have the problem much more in the game, is that they pass the ball to the wrong guy. Yeah? So they train these strategies. They train the strategies that when I'm running now, and I'm running with 25 kilometers an hour straight in this direction, the other 5 players run as well. And with the distance of 10 meters, and the next one is 8 meters, and so on. So they have this pattern in mind. But if the next guy cannot run the same speed because there is some 5 players in front of him, then I'm just in my, let's say, in my process is that, okay, now I can pass the ball. And I pass it to the wrong guy. So that's why you still have to decode the information as well.
But isn't it, because you mentioned it doesn't seem to make sense to unsharpen all the image and then, because you don't have visual stimuli from the other corner and so on, but isn't it exactly how the eye works? Because when I'm looking now exactly at you, as you mentioned, I have this very tiny spot which is really sharp in color, and I see it, and now the arrow would go to mistake it because there is some visual stimuli, and I watch in this direction. But wouldn't it be then for the eye, according to this metaphor, that either I have already looked before in this direction and uncovered it, or because I somehow recognized him inside this unsharp area, away from the spot?
I don't know this dedicated software, but I know that the problem is that you double the arrow.
It is unsharp and unsharp.
My eye is unsharp here in any way. So it's unsharp here. And if my software makes this area even more unsharp, then I double the arrow of unsharpness. So I cannot, in fact, decode the information there at all. That's the big problem. So it's enough that I'm unsharp already. So I don't need the software to be more.
Thank you.
Okay, so I would suggest that we make a 10-minute break probably. If there are some smokers, then please you can go and smoke outside this direction. But make sure that you see me or that you see some one of your colleagues or the other participants, because the door might be locked now already. So we can just open it from inside. Otherwise, if there's still someone locked out, there's my telephone number on the door. So but see you back here in 10 minutes, and then we have the presentation on scenario. Thank you.